So this is your typical comparative advantage calculation. The two countries, the two goods and the two workers. So you have to try and work out then which country should specialise in which good and what will that result in terms of overall production. So we can see that China is better than the UK at both, but it has a comparative advantage here in clothing because it's 3 times better at clothing and only twice as good at food. So the worker then in China ought to move from food, so he can't produce any more food, over to clothing, and that will then double output there. The UK will specialise then in the other good, which is food, so therefore clothing then goes down to 0 and food goes up to 80. So we just draw that out again then in another chart. So this is now the result after specialisation. So global production then has decreased in food. So it's only 67% of what it was prior to specialisation, but global production of clothing has gone from 40 to 60, which is 150% of what it was. Therefore, the increase in global production of clothing outweighs the decrease in global production of food. Therefore, specialisation was warranted. And you would explain that in those terms broadly, that the after specialisation, the improvement outweighs the disimprovement. You might then be asked then to calculate the terms of trade. And to do that, you need to go back to the original figures and then work out what 1 unit of clothing in each country is worth relative to food, and then what 1 unit of food in each country is worth relative to clothing. So 1 unit of clothing, just take that down to 1, will obviously be 4 units of food in the UK. You just divide that by that. So do the same here. 80 divided by 30 will be 2.67, and then 1. And then 1 unit of food would be, you can see, 1/4 of a unit of clothing. And in China, 1 unit of food would be 0.38 units of clothing. So then you would write that out properly then and just express the terms of trade. So as we said then, food will be traded for between 0.25 and 0.38 units of clothing, while clothing will be traded for between 2.67 and 4 units of food. And you simply just calculate that based on the figures that were given to you in the original question.